TOPLOBSTA Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us modern-day slaves. And everybody's just walking around, out in the clouds, who won't awaken to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is TOPLOBSTA, the father of disinformation. Before we get into today's guest, a little reminder. Sometime around the 30-minute mark, we're going to go live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. You can continue enjoying this show, engaging in the live chat, gaining early access to episodes before they are released. Early access to Bohemian Grove tickets when they drop.
Discounts for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That'll be tonight.
Well, I had to take it back because I don't know if he's going to do it. I don't know if he's going to put discount codes and merchandise at toplobsta.com.
I'm saying I will.
Well, he says he will. So if you go to patreon.com, you could also look forward to a little discount code off of merchandise from toplobsta.com and all the super dope designs that we have up there. Scroll down. Let's pick a new one to look at
There's
today.
one all the way at the bottom.
There is one hiding down there. I do like the Little Seasoners. We were talking about that. Let's highlight the Little Seasoners. For all the Little Seasoners out there that be getting mad.
We still love you.
We still love you, baby. And we got a t-shirt for you for all you Little Seasoners out there. All right. TOPLOBSTA.com, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into today's guest, the return of Wesley Roth. Wesley, my friend, good to see you. Thanks for coming back. Before we get into the conversation, tell everybody what you do, where they can find what you do.
I am a filmmaker. I work with Holler Studios. We just put out the Meadow Project, which I'm sure some of you guys saw. And it's going to be released video on demand later late in September.
Late in September. Yeah, that's right. Because we were doing that interview with Trey Hudson, and I wanted to be able to tell people where they can't gain access to it right now, right? Not until
right now.
It's okay. When it's released again. Did you see that episode that we did with Trey?
I sure did.
And what did you think? Do you think that Trey is a Fed?
I think he worked for the federal government, but outside of that, I don't know. He doesn't strike me as one. It's funny that he works in intelligence because he just seems so genuine and forthcoming with everything he talks about that I was like, you'd be like the worst spy because you'd be like, it's really cool. I'm a spy. I should let you know because I'm a good person that I'm a spy. And they're like, sure you are. So maybe he's a great spy. And it's like, I don't know.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to him. One of the things that he's said that
cool. He's so cool.
He is super, and he knows a lot, dude. Well, I mean, he knows a lot given his background.
He worked in intelligence.
He's very intelligent, and also, it's interesting because I think one of the questions we asked him early on, it's like, do you think it's any coincidence at all that you got involved with this sort of phenomenon that's taking place at the Meadow, given your background? And he also was like, it just seems that people who are into this sort of thing get drawn to these sort of things. And and I think that very much like hits the nail on the head when it comes to Trey.
Yeah, I think I genuinely think that this person's a Fed because they worked in this or that is kind of overblown. It's kind of like grifter, like everybody's a grifter.
Yeah.
And everybody's a Fed. There are so many people that work in that field that they only specialize in the thing they specialize in. They have no other, inside knowledge that, that they might not know things that regular people know just because they're so busy with the thing they're busy with. And it's very fixated on, whether it's Iraq or whatever it was for the past 20 years. That would you say, well, what about Homeland? They're like, I don't know anything about the Homeland stuff. I don't know anything about the Patriot Act or whatever,
Yeah, everybody's got their own little area of expertise. We learned recently on an episode that we shot with someone behind the scenes. They divulged to us that they're part of like this group chat of other content creators.
Oh, this was fun.
This was
I
very
forgot
fun.
about this.
Yeah. And he's basically like, look, you can't blame people for their opinions. And I'm going to say that first, and then I'm going to tell you that there's a whole group chat of all these content creators who think that we're feds. And I think really what it is, and I'm not trying to knock anybody at all. I'm just saying exactly what a Fed would say. I'm just saying that it's easy to, well, not easy. It's there's a level of difficulty to turning the mic on and sitting in a chair and turning the camera on and espousing some crap. And then there's an additional layer of difficulty to putting it on the internet. But then there are continuous layers. And I think the only thing that separates people that are doing this from people that are suspected to be feds is just work ethic. I think that's like the vast majority of the issue here isn't that people who find success, because that's the trope. It's like anybody who finds success is a fed. And it's like maybe they're just working just a little bit harder than turning the camera on and sitting there. Like it's a just a little bit more and it pays dividends.
All right, stop running cover for the feds. Wes, I got a question for you, dog.
Sure.
We want to know what happened at the end of the Meadow. What was this? Explain this to us. For the people who haven't seen it, who will watch it late September, did he see a Bigfoot? Did he not see a Bigfoot? Is the relationship...
Well, I don't know if he can spoil it. I mean, people haven't...
No, I can talk about it.
All right.
Is Tony and Joel, is their relationship gonna make it?
Is
Can we
everybody
talk
okay?
about it?
Yeah, no, they're better than ever. Better than ever. I honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know what's there, what's in the film, where with the two images overlaid, like clearly that shadow, what it was, like, it wasn't even a log, it was the shadow of a log, which is why when Joel went back at a different time of day, he couldn't see it. It was
I was
casting
wondering
the
about
shadow.
that.
Yeah. And it's a dead ringer. Like, I looked at it and was like, oh, and I hadn't even gotten to the like debunking at that point. Like, I was just going through GoPro stuff for a long time.
What did you think when you saw that initial? Because I thought I saw it and I said that looks like it looks like it was textured like hair and everything.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, dude, that's a Bigfoot.
Yeah, and I totally like with the like the emotional fallout that came from it, which, like, I can understand somebody watching it and being like, why are you reacting like this? But it's because you're not there experiencing it, and you haven't been out there for as many days straight. And like, we just shot a film in the last week of May, and well, I almost said where. Oof. But it was
This guy with his secrets.
Full of secrets.
Yeah.
He's full of secrets.
Listen, Tony has the right to say all these things. I don't. I can't be the one where he's like, why?
Tony doesn't watch this show. Don't worry about it.
But we were there for 6 days, and man, I slept all of like 6 hours that whole week, because it's just back to back to back to back to back to back. And it's not even like comfortable sleep. Like you're in a tent. Like, I'm 6'4", and I was in this tent like corner to corner because it was too big.
Oh, you guys were actually sleeping on the. Did you have like a cot, or you're just sleeping on the ground with a sleeping bag?
On the ground. Yeah, I mean, I had like a pad, like one of those like mattress topper type pads. But like, I was 6 inches taller than it, so like, but
so it just didn't matter.
Yeah, and it was awful. Like, it would be freezing at night, like literally like 30 degrees, and so I'd sleep in all my clothes. But when I would wake up when the sun came up, it was 80 degrees. And I was like,
I'm geolocating you right now. Where is it 30 degrees for the last six days in a row? Yeah. Now we know, Wes.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this: it was in the north part of the Midwest. But
you just told David something. You're talking about maps. I'm looking at his face right now. No idea.
You know what I did? I feigned thinking.
You feigned, yeah.
Like when he said that, I looked up and I went,
like, dog, you could have told him the exact location. He'd be like,
I don't know where that is.
No clue.
I don't know where that is.
Well, a lot of interest. Like, if I said where it was, you would think, well, there's 3 things you could have been shooting about. But 3 things.
I have an idea. And it falls in together as well. I'm not gonna say it, but I know
Don't say it.
I know where he's at.
He's got secrets to keep.
You got
Yeah.
secrets,
Unbelievable.
but I'm a good investigator, so no, I don't.
The point is, it is not like by the end of that week, I was just mentally spent and shot, and everything affects you 10 times worse. You, I don't know, like it's camping, but it's like really a lot of thought going into everything. A lot of like, you're getting let down constantly. Like things go wrong constantly, and it just beats you down. And then also there's really weird stuff happening that freaks you out, like makes you uncomfortable. And so like I'll say this, before I went on that trip, I didn't understand. And then after I went, I was like, I totally understand. Like I get it.
That's
100%.
interesting.
Why
Did things happen in the chronological order that they take place in the documentary? Meaning, like, did you have the whole Bigfoot situation?
He's talking about a different documentary now.
Well, I'm talking about. I just wanted to bring it back to that for a second. Did you leave? Like, was that actually the last sequence of events that took place on that trip, and then you guys left?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah, it was
That's
the last
really
thing. Like that happened, and they packed up and left and went to an Airbnb, which is what the tag is, where there's like the handprints on the car are like really big. Like the fingerprints that they have are twice the size of like my fingerprint. Like they're bizarre. And yeah, there's something like strange. Like I look at it and it's like, it looks like fur matted down. To me, it sort of looks fabricy, but I also couldn't probably tell you the difference if you held them up to me. It's just what my brain sees. It's like, it kind of looks like a fine fabric rather than like big bushy hair. Like it's not, the tendrils don't look quite as big, but you know, some dogs have short hair, some Bigfoot have short hair. I don't know, but it is bizarre. And it's bizarre that like it happened over the prints that they had put there themselves. That was what really freaked me out. It's like you could see their handprints, and these prints are over them.
Wait. They put handprints there themselves, like that. Like they just touched the car and left fingerprints
like
behind.
They opened
and then
their trunk the night before, closed it to get their bags out, went to sleep. Then they came out. That was like 7 or 8 in the morning that he was filming that, and the handprints are over it. You know what I mean? Like it happened between those times. So to me, that just puts the idea of like, okay, this happened between the time they rented the car and the time they got up. Like this is
it
when
almost
they did
seems
that.
like a trickster kind of a thing, right? I always go back now to like Nathaniel Gillis talking about the phenomenon and how it takes all these different forms. But if you look into places like the documentaries on Skinwalker Ranch, I think I brought this up either in our last conversation, Wes, or in one with Trey, where I was saying there was a scene where some like, you know, menial equipment went missing for a time, and then when it manifested, it was in a treetop. Like, so something had taken and it was like a hefty piece of like it I remember the way they described it. It looked like it had been dropped from an aerial POV because it just didn't make sense. Like the arc that you would have to create to get it up into this tree, and it was like a lofty piece of equipment. But there is always this, like, even with poltergeist activity, which always take place, you know, in conjunction with this sort of a phenomenon, there's like a trickster element, you know, where it's like, why did I just shut all my cupboards, but they're all open again? And it's like, it's not like the most horrifying crap, but it's like calculated, and it's almost like it's trolling you. So the idea that it would leave fingerprints over pre-existing ones, it just like adds a layer of confusion to the whole situation that kind of, to me, seems on par.
Well, yeah, it's like,
or on brand.
They want to create a strife or an argument. I don't know. We're describing this kind of thing. So it's like you're physically weary, and that's the easiest time for them to insert themselves, for whatever it is to insert itself, and just to cause some sort of division. Doesn't quite matter what it is, but just something.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the film, which at first, like when we first watched it, I was like, what the hell is Joel doing? But then we spoke to Trey, and Trey's like, well, oftentimes the meadow will manifest in a way that you kind of want to see it, or in a way that it thinks that you want to see it. And then after that, you see kind of like this weird tension between Tony and Joel. And it's like, it's funny. It brings a little bit of levity. You're like, what the hell is going on in this situation?
But you could tell it's not funny for them. And given what Wes just said about like how many days in the forest, sleeping badly, he's only getting 6 hours of sleep.
Well, this is the secondary thing. So I could imagine, I mean, he's going to tell us about it, but I was telling you guys pre-show last night, I had something weird happen to me where it's like, again, in the middle of the night, I wouldn't even call it a dream, something going on. And like, I immediately recognize, like I wake up and I recognize it as a lie, but it's something that.
What are you talking about? What happened?
I can't. I'm not going to say it right now.
What do you mean you can't? Everybody's got secrets. I got secrets too, dude.
No, you don't
I
have
got
any
secrets that I'm not going to tell anybody either.
No, you don't.
Yeah, dude. And
I'll talk about it. I haven't really made sense of what it was or what even I did. Like I'm not the guy that's like oh, I'm gonna start praying and saying Jesus in Jesus' name.
Did you
kind
do
of
that
stuff.
though? You started yelling that around your house?
No, I wouldn't yell it, but because like everyone's asleep, but I'm saying it and I'm like, I hope this is good enough in my head.
Yeah.
I'm using my telepathy.
Oh man.
Honestly, it not just that it worked, but there's a feeling that like I don't get this stuff ever.
Yeah.
There was a feeling of like pressure off of my chest, and I was like, that was like a complete farce, whatever it was that woke me up. And I was like, I know that that's a lie. And I just said, I was like, you got to get out of here.
Well, that's like, these things are like I'm saying, constantly operating in a way that like causes confusion and fear. And it's strange. It's like, it's trolling you. It's pressing you. Like even the Bigfoot phenomenon where they're like throwing stones.
Yeah.
Like what is that about? You can't really make sense of it either way, except for like
whooping.
This thing is screwing with me, which then lends itself to the idea of like a personality behind whatever it is, because only a thing with a personality screws with you.
Yeah. And to your point about Trey's point is, yeah, it knew exactly where to push to cause that tension and let it stew just long enough to where they felt a little bit dejected and then completely leave the area and then take that exact same thing that caused the tension and rethrust it upon them. Like, make it say like, hey, like to make you feel crazy. Like it makes you like, you've finally accepted like, hey, this happened. We feel bad about it, but hey, we did the job. And then it's like, nope, we're going to make you feel even crazier. It's like paranormal gaslighting, sort of like this happened.
Yeah.
Paranormal gaslighting. Yeah. Name of the episode.
Paranormal gaslighting is a banger. But that's what it's like.
It's a good band name.
That is a really good band name. But it makes you wonder, like, is there a deeper reason, or is it like a loosh thing? Are they, sapping energy off you of this like real extreme lows and then high highs, because I have to imagine they went on a real high after seeing those fingerprints on the car.
Probably, but like also, I mean, listen, I don't know these people, but you've got to.
Well, it's like, I disagree, because it's like you just caught the evidence that you thought you saw something and disprove it, and then this happens and it makes you feel even crazier. Like you almost don't even want to talk about it, because you'd be like, well, what if we look at this under a microscope and it's something it's some weird bird like crashed into like there's like feathers or something, and you're like, oh my gosh,
that's such a good point.
This is horror movie 101, right? Like movies like The Ring and Smile and stuff, where it's like something crazy happens, they affect you until people come around you, and then it's like, no, everything's fine. And then as soon as you're like, okay, everything's fine, they hit you again, and you go to your friends and family again, and they're like, okay, we got to have this person committed, or they're literally losing it. And that's how I looked at it. Was like they're trying to make them crazy. Whatever it is trying to make them feel crazy so that they act crazy. And like it matches the blueprint, the playbook of
honestly
that kind of
after that, like if I were Tony, I don't know the relationship, but I might be like, let me see your bags. Like, do you have like a big greasy hand?
Oh my God.
Bag?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
going crazy. Yeah.
Because there is now that level of like suspicion, like you're this angry and you're this dejected. and you've got to be like, it's almost like they want you to start accusing and poking the finger. This is exactly
And
what
that's what happens in movies, right? In the movies,
in
they
real
start,
life.
like,
It's what
yeah.
it's what happened with during Bohemian Grove, like you and your wife. I mean, everybody's just like
everybody starts going at each other. It's like a little like
Yeah.
my wife and I, who never argue, we ended up arguing during the whole Bohemian Grove debacle. It's like there's a energy that pits you against each other, and that happens in the horror films too, right? Like the cast always starts getting at odds with one another, and it's weird how much Hollywood will like they'll disseminate information in the minutia that goes right over your head, like you don't see it as significant. I keep telling you, I'm playing Resident Evil 8, and there's like all this Nephilim in it. And one of the things that ends up poking its head up as a really big element to the story is black mold. And I'm like, damn, dude, like they're telling you all of these, this idea of mold keeps coming up. I was talking to Jamie Henshaw Dyer, and it was like a comment on Twitter where somebody was saying, what if all demonic possession is actually just like, mold sickness? And I said, well, what if all parasites and mold are actually like an energetic conduit that conducts negative spiritual energy?
Well,
and
I told you about I mean, if you watch the show, you probably heard as well. Right behind the wall here used to be a staircase, like coming down. And when we had it removed to build this office, there was black mold, and that mold had to have had residence in this house at the time, especially at the time when my wife got sick.
Yeah.
And during that time as well, that's compounded with possible witchcraft. It's crazy, but I think that these things work hand in hand. And I don't know I just don't know where to put it anymore.
Look, somebody in the chat
have you
said,
seen Archive 81 ever?
No.
I tried to watch it, and I just don't have like a capacity to watch anything these days, but I hear a lot of good things about it.
Wherever the like demon in it is trying to manifest, it turns into black mold. Like it's
dude,
a black
there's
mold.
something with the black mold. Look, somebody said FJ Fool said Blair Witch, which in the Blair Witch Project, they're all out in the forest, and they're all getting like gaslit like by all these strange happenings that they're unable to confirm. And then, before the end of the film, they've all turned on each other. That's kind of wild when you start thinking about Tony and Joel's experience through that lens. Honestly, that really puts it in a different focus for me.
I wish they would have
I think the EMF.
I'm talking to the guy who did the documentary, but I'm like, I wish they would have
Well, because you probably
storyline.
Yeah, you probably don't think about that at all while you're out there. I wonder if they've even. I'm sure they've thought about the spiritual implications of being at.
I don't think
like
you
they
can.
were really at odds with one another.
You don't think of it because in the moment you're only seeing the one thing. Especially now that like the fatigue is on you. Like when the fatigue is on you, you're not able to step back and look at the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like as far as the like storyline and stuff, it's so like nebulous because you don't know how it's gonna plan. Like there's always a contingency for like, what if this place we're going to is a complete dud, and it happens. So you have to have some sort of like, we've got to get this, like to tell the story of why we're here in the first place. But you want to be able to say, while we were there, and a lot of times there is, or you don't even realize until after, which there was a lot of stuff in Meadow that wasn't until after, and stuff we didn't even end up including. Like I'm sure you guys saw, like there's a lot of focus on the spiral and the 0.33 and 0.66 microsievers on the Geiger counter. And I was thinking about that. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right.
But the thing that came to mind with the spiral and the 33, and I was like, we have to go down this road in this film. We have to. And we ended up not, just because we couldn't pull the information together, was if I think of an upward spiral and the number 33, the thing that comes to mind is the Sisters of Laredo staircase.
I'm actually unfamiliar with that.
Top, are you familiar with it?
No,
Okay.
But I'm about to tell you something about the spiral after you're done here. But go ahead.
Well, this is fascinating. There's a convent in New Mexico called the Sisters of Laredo, and they had like a loft there for the choir to sing, but there was no staircase to get up there. They had a rope and pulley essentially to get people up there. And they were like, we need a staircase. So they looked and looked and looked for somebody to build it.
Oh my God, I've heard this. This is really fascinating. Okay, I've seen this. We're gonna bring up an image of it here. Please continue.
Well, a man came and said he would build it for them, and they agreed to terms and everything. And he said, all I ask is that no one enter while I'm working. And I can't remember how long it was. It was an interesting amount of days numerically that it took him to build it, but it has like no nails, no glue. It's all sufficient in how it uses gravity in a way that no other spiral staircase does. And
it's very similar to what Troy is doing in the kinetic sense. Like this thing somehow there's like no rivets, no nails or anything like that.
Not Troy. Topher.
I'm sorry. Topher
Right.
is doing. Yeah, Topher Gardner is doing with his domes where they're like there's this kind of kinetic energy where everything leans on itself and there's no I mean I'm gonna do a
oh
shit
yeah, look
job
at
of
that.
it.
There's no risers.
There's nothing
at the bottom.
and
there's no
yeah, so
center. There's no center to and the rail is added later. It had no rail. Somebody else.
So there's no center pole. Yeah, FJ
no
Fool
center
says it's
pole.
all tension.
Yeah, it's all tension. And there's 33 stairs, which is fascinating. And then the wood they've done. The guy brought his own supplies, but they never saw him bring them or take them. Nobody ever saw him go to and from. He would just be in there during the day and then leave, and nobody ever saw him go. And he would only speak with them on like pre-planned kind of meetings. And they studied the wood, and it's a type of wood that is native to northern. Well, there is no like one-to-one. The closest related type of wood is from northern Alaska, which is very wild for the time period.
But there's no one-to-one been discovered?
There's no one-to-one. There's no exact match.
So they're unable to determine what kind of wood and thereby where it even comes from. They didn't see him bring.
Yeah,
oh, there it is, actually, without any railings.
Yeah.
They didn't see him come and go with any supplies. And he arrives quite mysteriously. He also disappears quite mysteriously, and he doesn't accept payment. Correct?
Dog, that
Correct.
staircase is dangerous.
Oh, that's super dangerous.
It's especially for nuns, right? Like,
You know what I love though? I love like the OSHA aspect of things, where OSHA's like, yeah, this miraculous staircase is
We're
going
gonna
to
have
need
to tear it
railings.
down.
It's going to need railings at the very
At least
least. You're going to have to put railings on it.
You'd expect they would have put a really ugly aluminum one, so I'm glad they didn't do that.
I'm glad they put something a little bit ornate. Yeah. I just wonder about that though, because I wouldn't have even. It's like, do you risk doing anything to this staircase? You can't even identify how it's holding itself up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You like, I'd be like, I don't know if we're going to hammer anything into this. Seems a shame.
So what's the deal with this guy? He just disappears after.
Never accepts payment.
I think the only
vanishes.
thing that they said is he had a donkey. I don't know if that's 100% true.
Does that mean he had a? Never mind.
This is a Christian.
I know.
show.
I was going to say I was going to make a butt joke. I was going to make a big butt joke. Unbelievable.
Yep. But it, like, there's a lot of speculation as to who it was. A lot of people think it was Jesus. A lot of people think it was Saint Christopher. I don't know.
I love the idea that Jesus is that type of carpenter, like a carpenter, dude. Like he's got wood secrets. He's got carpentry secrets that you don't even understand how this staircase. I love that. That would be dope. I
might be mistaken on this, but I think it's a type of acacia, which makes it even more interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So and then of course 33 steps, which is even more fascinating. I mean, man, as if it wasn't enough. Imagine
the spiral makes me like, it's literally a portal to the next level. Like it's an ascension to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's what came to mind.
They don't even look like short steps either. It looks like, the mathematics on this is incredible.
Oh yeah,
because you'd want like a certain rise and run. I've done staircases before. This is like how I learned, carpentry. I learned, building a little. The first thing I built was a staircase, but the rise and run. I mean, it's okay. It's a little short for the rise, but damn, it's crazy. That is crazy. I was gonna say, we just interviewed Sean Griffin of Kingdom in Context, and he doesn't like the spiral. he kind of like went off on us, and he showed us a couple examples of Catholic churches that have a spiral
Labyrinth.
Spiral labyrinth before you can get into the sanctuary. And the idea is that like you're supposed to like trap your intentions in there, or your
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you're supposed to walk this because it's not a physical labyrinth that you have to pass through in order to like navigate. It's like a imprint on the ground. You know, it's a design that's drawn on the ground, but you could walk it if you saw fit. And the idea is like as you walk it, you meditate on, I guess, your many sins and transgressions, and then like the idea is you leave them behind in the labyrinth, but it flies in the face of what Jesus Christ teaches.
Jesus is on the cross right in front of you, but they're telling you like, but before you get there, you must do this thing. And then he compares it to the walls of Jericho and these type of cities, these fortress cities, which were built. I mean, this is built in a circle, and it's built in a spiral where the further you go in, the more traps there are. You're not going to get out, and you're not going to get to the center where all the important stuff is. And it's like, you begin to think about the symbology of what the spiral is, and then the FBI logo for,
Child
pedophilia.
enjoy. Oh, I was gonna
Whatever.
This is,
we'll edit it.
unbelievable.
Completely not on purpose, but this kind of does transition into the thing I'm on to talk about, which is just symbols, certain symbols that a lot of people perceive as negative or evil or satanic. And first of all, I don't subscribe to the idea that there is any satanic symbol. There's symbols that are like what's the word, hijacked and
co-opted.
perverted. Yeah, co-opted is the right word. And used to elevate lower entities to a higher position. And even the triangular spiral is on the surface of Mars. Like there's a pyramid that is a spiral as it goes up. And if you look at it from the top, it's that symbol. There is something esoteric about it. I don't know what it is. But the pyramid itself, a lot of people, like during COVID, like really deep dived into the pyramids and trying to understand where they come from and the time period they're built. Were they built like, 12,000 BC or before that or what? And I'm was married to that for a long time, but in what I've been looking at lately, I'm starting to think perhaps maybe not quite as old as we think, but still quite old. And what are they there for? Like, you go to any kind of like new age shop, they're going to have an assortment of pyramids you can take and light incense in, or they're, like orgone containers or whatever. They hold on to that and keep you close to it or whatever, vril, all of that. And I'm sure that there's truth to that, but the origin of it, I think, is something much, much different. In fact, I think the pyramid is the original monument to Yahweh.
Oh, that's
the Great Pyramid itself. And I can go into that now if you want.
Well, I'm very interested in that. I know you bought slides. I can see them beneath.
Slides.
So I'm
I
very
didn't make
excited.
a whole lot of them because I knew you guys would have questions, and
well, he knew that we were going to interrupt.
These
and
guys are
derail.
gonna interrupt.
He's like,
no,
I'm
I'm counting on it. In fact, because I have not like practiced a presentation, I don't have it ready to go. This is just something I've been studying. I was like, I should probably make slides so that it can be visualized.
Well, I'm very much interested in it. But before we get there, we're at speaking of 33. At the 33-minute mark, we plan this. And so if you are a YouTube enjoyer, a Rumble enjoyer, Twitter enjoyer, you won't be for much longer. Go to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Enjoy the rest of this episode. Engage in the live chat. Or you can wait about a week until the episode drops in its entirety. Bye-bye, guys. I was supposed to call them disgusting pores. Bye-bye, disgusting pores. Okay, so I guess let's after Top is done with this, we'll bring up these. Well, I want to bring up these slides, but I was going to say that now you're clicking stuff, and it's kind of
clicking away.
So this idea that the Great Pyramids were the original,
just the Great Pyramid, just the center one. Or I'm sorry,
the Great Pyramids. Okay,
the largest one, not the center one.
Okay. And what got you thinking that was the case?
Well, it's actually a pretty old idea. I think the first book about it being the symbol of Yahweh, the pillar to Yahweh, was written in around the time of the Civil War, the American Civil War. There are a lot of like British astronomers. They're kind of the start of the like, hey, this aligns with Orion's belt and all of that. That's when that all started to pop off. And there were a couple of books that came out that were like, hey, the measurements here are really interesting. And it's just built and built and built over time, where people have started to put together new eyesights or insights. So that said, none of these, except for one, are my original research. I did find something really fascinating that I included in this that I genuinely don't think anybody's ever looked at before. I don't think ever in history. I could be wrong.
He's
Maybe
not
we'll
going
find
to
a
keep
book
it a
about
secret.
No, I'm not. I'm thrilled to talk about it. I'm thrilled to talk about it. In fact, I might
Well,
write.
should we bring up these slides then?
Sure.
All right, let's toss that up on here. So what do you got? Architecture, Egypt. This is the inside of the Great Pyramid.
No, it's got a bowling alley and. But I was looking for the that like one everybody knows from Encyclopedia Britannica, and I grabbed this and put it on there. And as I was working on it, I was like, wait a second, there's not a sauna in there.
Unbelievable.
But I kept it anyway.
A rompus room, the kitchenette breakfast nook.
Yeah, I love that you got to go through all of those places just to get to your bedroom. It's crazy.
It sounds like a huge pain.
Anyway, so here's the origin. Isaiah 19 through 20. In that day, there will be an altar to the Lord in the heart of Egypt, and a monument to the Lord at its border. It will be a sign and witness to the Lord Almighty in the land of Egypt. When they cry out to the Lord because of their oppressors, he will send them a savior and a defender, and he will rescue them. Okay, so that is kind of seems like standard scripture. However, the altar, I want to talk about that. The word for it is Misbeach, which is a place of sacrifice and offering. Well, there's never been any evidence in the Great Pyramid that there was any sort of blood sacrifice. The word for pillar is matstaba, and it means stone monument. Okay, if that checks out. But as you dig into it, you start to see what it means by sacrifice. And in a lot of the Old Testament, when he refers to Israel, he's talking about just God's people, and you can transitively mean any believer at the time, even before Israel. And Egypt tends to mean just the world at large. It does the same thing with Babylon. When it says Babylon, it's talking about everywhere that's lost, essentially.
The culture.
The culture, yes. But I think that Egypt, like way pre-dynastic Egypt, was a culture that worshipped the Most High, and that they built this through divine providence and probably through some help from things that are not human.
Well, like Joseph was there.
Yes.
Joseph and Jacob was in Egypt for quite a while as well, right? Kind of like rolling. Or was it? No. Abraham rolled through. Yeah, all these guys kind of roll through Egypt. Abraham rolls. He goes through there, and that's where he becomes rich, and he comes back out of that land, and then he begins his story with God.
Moses as well.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to touch on this slide is that how can something be in the heart of it and on the border? Well, the word Giza means border, which is interesting. And then also Egypt is split into northern and southern kingdoms, upper and lower kingdoms. Which is ironic. The south part is the upper and the north part is the lower because higher elevation on the south. And Giza happens to fall right on that border, which is in the exact center of Egypt at large.
So do you think this would have also been a monument to indicate like this is the border? I mean, considering that Giza means border, it seems like they would have that would have been
the border
strategic. That would have
between
been
kingdoms. That's why it was called that.
Right,
So
right. And
that's why it's called that. And the reason it's there, we'll go to why it is there. I think next thing is this. This is just the first interesting tidbit. So every character in Hebrew is also a number, right? If you add those two verses together, like every single character, it comes up to 5,449, which is the exact height in pyramid inches of the pyramid.
Wait, so Isaiah 19 through 20.
Yes.
If you take every character in those two bits of scripture and you add them together, it equals 5,449, which is the height of the Great Pyramid in inches.
Pyramid inches, which is 1 inch, 1 current inch plus a human hair.
Whoa.
That is a very peculiar unit of measurement.
Yes, and we'll get to why they use that system of measurement and what
A
when you
pyramid
do
inch is a
pyramid
standard inch with
plus
a
a human hair.
plus a human hair.
1.0001 inches.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. Right, and this is where the pyramid is, which is exactly on the cross of the equator and the prime meridian. And
I didn't know that's where the Giza pyramid
Yep.
fell. I didn't know that they were at the sort of conjunction point.
It's at the exact spot, and it's also this I need to like do more research and verify. But according to a lot of the people that research this, if you split up the land masses on those 4, like I guess semispheres, it's equal land mass on all 4 sides. It's the exact center point of all land by volume.
That's interesting.
Very.
I wonder how they would determine that. I'm not saying that I don't believe that, but I know like we just did some weird where Japan did a land survey and found like 1,000 more islands or some crap like that. And
Yeah, but that's like minuscule stuff. I think that this might go into the idea of Pangea, and I don't even know where I sit on that idea. But if all this stuff was together and you divided it from that center point like a cake, it would be just about equal.
Right. You put it all in a
Interesting stuff.
blender that you get 4 equal glasses of sand, right?
Right.
Like, and I need to look at that further. There's some stuff in here that I'm like, okay, I need to look at this closer because maybe I don't understand the mathematics. I'm not a mathematician, but I can do basic math. And I'm like, these are close. I don't know if they're exact. And if it was designed by the Most High, I think it would be pretty close to exact. Like maybe a degree or a percentage point off.
How many sides does the pyramid have? Does it line up with the angles here?
So it's the corners align north to south to the poles.
Okay, so there's 4 sides because it looks like the Star of David in the middle there. Do you see
It
that?
is the place I sourced this from uses the Star of David as its star.
Huh.
It just like my understanding from looking at it is that they just use the shape like tool.
I mean, it works.
Yeah, I mean it's never even. Like they just like dragged it. It's just like I'm just going to choose this shape. There's some stars. Well, actually, I think I took them out. There were some stars in there, and all the where they did highlights. They just used that a lot. All right, so the sacred pyramid cubit is what these interpretations are taken from, which a lot of people thought that this was done with you'll find different measurements from different people because some people measure the pyramid in the Royal Egyptian cubit, but all of these are
by
based
the
on
way,
Hebrew cubit.
I just want to bring this up real quick. A federal agent said this, and this is something that I learned recently. So the pyramid has 8 sides technically because each side has a center peak. So you can see like it's not always perceivable, but sometimes in the right light when a shadow is casted, you can see that there actually is on on each of the 4 walls there is a center line where like either it's peaked in or it's peaked out or something like that. But so technically speaking, it does have, but the other the split on each wall is very subtle.
Yeah, they're not straight. I will put it that way. It's not like it's not this and then 2 straight lines peeking in. It's a curve. It's a very subtle curve, and it's the exact degree of the curvature of the Earth. It's going to upset a lot of people, but the purported curvature of the Earth matches the indentation on the pyramids. However, I will note that it's also structural, that you see that on the skeleton, but the casing stones that were there did not feature that. The casing stones were flat. So if there's a few still at the bottom and they make a flat line. So if they were all still on it, it would be straight. So it's the inside, it's structural, but it's also mathematics buried in there. There's a lot of math buried in this thing. Like I'm not even 1% of 1% on the very strange math in this thing. Oh, I didn't finish this. So the sacred pyramid cubit is basically 25 pyramid inches, which is 25 of our inches plus 25 human hairs. Not a huge difference. And they found this. One of the reasons that they use this unit of measure is there is right before you enter the king's chamber, there is a rose quartz stone that has a semi-sphere or a semicircle that's not carved into it, but it's like an embossment. It comes out, and it's called the boss, and it's exactly 5 of those pyramid inches, and they look at it as a key, saying use this. And there's a lot of 5s in this. 5 also happens to be in like gematria and Hebrew culture. It is the number for God's grace, and it is Ha, which is the addition to Abraham's name. So he was Abram. They added the Ha to be Abraham. So God's breath or God's grace was added to Abraham when he made the covenant with him. That's why they look at this and go, oh, that's relevant. It's not just a cool little, semicircle feature. It's like, hey,
So
here's
this is something where they're using potentially mathematics to pay homage to God the Father.
and to give the key to understanding the pyramid and what it's trying to tell you.
It's
Because
also
the idea. Go ahead.
It just reminds me of like the 5. You have 5 fingers here rather than the 6 digit for what was possibly roaming the earth in those days.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
But this is sort of where I'm going to go with it. It is the monument to Yahweh, but it is also the entire gospel told in physical form.
I'm sorry. The pyramid is the
pyramid is
entire.
the gospel. It's the entire story of the Bible told from start to beginning, or from start to finish.
Go on.
What I'm going to go to now is the names of the pyramid in antiquity from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's called Pahanak, which means House of Enoch. The Egyptians called
this
it.
is the names of. Wait.
Yes. So the Book of the
Names
Dead
of the
refers to it
pyramid.
as Pahanak. When they talk about the Great Pyramid, it's Pahanak, which translates to House of Enoch. And then in dynastic Egyptian times, they called it Kuti, which means light or lights. And then more interesting to me is the Chaldeans, which is where Abraham is from. They called it this. I don't know how to pronounce it perfectly, but it means revelatory measures. Or measurements of revelation.
It could be Uramidin or Uramidin. Revelatory measures. Revelatory measures. So it's literally telling you like what
There's
they decided
revelation
to
in
name these things. Yeah, there's something, there's information imparted via the measurements of this structure.
And a lot of people know that, the, what is it, 42,300. If you multiply the like the circumference of the circle around the base of the pyramid, that will equal the circumference of the earth. It'll also relate to the distance to the sun. And there's a lot of just like, how did they know to put it on the equator, first of all? But there's a lot of things
that really upsets the flat earthers.
It certainly does. And like, listen, I have no beef with flat earthers. I just happen to disagree because I think that if you make that leap, and I won't say that there aren't things that they say that are compelling. I'm like, well, that's interesting. But if you make that leap, it makes a lot of the things in scripture make less sense. And a lot of the things that they point to for justification for flat earth, I'm going to get into that here because I think it has more to do with the pyramid than it has to do with the design of the earth.
I love this show because we had a flat earther on the last episode and then immediately accidentally go to debunk them.
Yeah, accidentally.
I'm not trying to debunk them.
We do a lot of it.
If I die and go to heaven and it's flat, I'll be like, hey guys, I'm willing to admit I'm wrong on this. But I don't see it that way because, first of all, if you look at the precession of the earth, the Bible is written in the stars. And it's like, it talks about the heavenly bodies. We could see that they are spherical as they rotate. And so why wouldn't ours be? And then why would we, to me, I kind of look at it as limiting him to being like, yeah, I can make earth, but I can't make it round. Like I'm not that, I can't do that. Like, I mean, kind of everything about like sacred geometry and stuff is 3-dimensional. It's like talking about how the cross is an unfolded cube, and the cube itself, like everything's three-dimensional. And in fact, I think we're limited to just the 3 dimensions, and everything else is even more than that, like 11, 33 dimensions, whatever. I think.
Do you think that we can still have a firmament and be a globe?
That's a great question.
Well, so I looked into that a few times, and my understanding is that the word firmament can mean 2 different things in its context. And one of the meanings is not like barrier. It means like vast expanse. Like the word that translates to firmament can also be translated to vast expanse. And we're looking at it as like what we think the translation is the meaning, whereas the translation is just a translation. Same for the word day. Like I've gotten into a lot of arguments that like on the first day God created this, on the second day it's like, okay, the sun didn't exist yet on days 1 through 3, so how is there a 24-hour day? Explain this to me. Like now a day for 1,000 years, like a day to God is 1,000 years to or a man, or how Jesus uses the word hour and day as metaphor, or not metaphor, but just as turn of phrase to mean this point in time or this amount of time. And even sometimes the Bible will say 1,000 years when it's really much more than that, just because at the time when you said 1,000 years, it's like when we say like, guys, I've been waiting for 1,000,000 years. It's like, I've been waiting for a very long time. And I want you to take note. It just was a turn of phrase at the time. There are a lot of things that you have to look at scripture in the context, just like Jesus saying, like, I want you to hate your mother and father. He doesn't want you to hate your mother and father. He's saying, love me so much that as much as you love them, it would look like hate to somebody. Like you love them so much, love me 1,000,000 times more to that. So when somebody compares your love to mine, the only word they could use to describe your love for them is hate. You won't understand that unless you know that that is a way that people spoke then. And that was a common phrase at the time. But it's
I got into a little philosophical argument with my parents about the term eternity, because when you look it up, eternity means like it's like a vast expanse of time, or like a huge expanse of time. But I'm like, but it is of time. It's of something, which means that it has an end. And they're like, no, it just means. And I was like, I don't think you can conceptualize it. It's just a lot. But what does it mean when they say you'll spend eternity in heaven? It's like, well, a vast amount of time, but time, meaning that there is a beginning and there will be an end to that. And as they're like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, well, me neither. So we'll just move on.
I look at the word eternity and think it means the absence of time. It means time's no longer going to be relevant. Like time won't be measured in the way we do. And I don't even know what that means. Like, I was thinking about that actually last night. I was thinking about time dilation, and like think of like Interstellar, where I'm on that planet for 45 minutes. Or whatever,
what a
like
harrowing.
And then I'm like, is that the difference of like between heaven and here? It's like, hey, like the same amount of time literally has passed biologically, but it's or hasn't changed, or it is different biologically, but it's the same amount of time. But what is that?
That's the thing. It says it's a state to which time has no application.
Timelessness.
So it's like you're trying to apply this idea of time to it, but you can't quite do that. But it still does mean. So it says for infinite or an unending time. It's like, well, what
that's
do you mean by that?
Even when Wes is saying like God's talking about, these first 3 days and the sun doesn't exist yet, and then it's like a day is 1,000 years, but then that expression just meaning like a really long amount of time, because even without the sun, what is 1,000 years? 1 year is 365 days that are made up by a 24-hour sun.
Well, I think he's going to get into this right with his next slide.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's
bring this up.
Do it.
Interestingly, Enoch, since it's the house of Enoch lived for 365 years. I'm willing to bet that he lived for 365 years and 3 months, because one solar year is 365 days plus a quarter of a day, essentially 0.242. And that's even true. Like we have a leap year, right? But even a leap year doesn't quite do it. And I think on the Julian calendar, I did not look into this. I just remember reading it somewhere, and I might have the the wrong calendar. One of the calendars always had every year, I think it was 12 minutes or something like that built into certain months of the year, which I also found interesting. 12 minutes to account for that little bit of difference.
That's interesting.
You want to know something real interesting? That
Yeah.
viral video that I keep referencing of the lady, the African scholar.
Oh yeah.
They have like no concept of the future.
They don't have a word like
They don't
in
have
their language for future.
Yeah. But they measure a year by when the seasons pass, by when it gets like adequately cold or hot enough. I'm like, that is so crazy.
But maybe that's it, because it seems like any attempt to, really divvy it up always ends up with a remainder, which is interesting because even the measurements that they're using, where it's like a standard inch plus a human hair, is like to account for some sort of remainder.
Well, how would you ever create something so divinely inspired without this accuracy?
Well, maybe
that
that's
you
it.
need by measuring.
Maybe it's like we can't. And so we can get pretty close, but if we could, we would be.
Listen, dog, I've looked at like Roman architecture. I've looked at the architecture of people who consider time, and it's long lasting, and it's a lot better than mud. I'm just at
No.
We're getting too far into
I hear
it.
that, but I'm just like even like they're building the pyramid here, and the pyramid is like it's a structure that beguiles, right? But they're measuring it with an inch and a hair. Like what kind of measurement
A very specific one.
That's very interesting. It seems like this remainders game that they're dealing. It's the same thing with like our calendar, where like what calendar you suspect it is, Wes, that uses the additional
Julian
12
calendar.
minutes. The Julian
Julian.
calendar is using
I
a
could be wrong on
remainder
that,
of 12 minutes to try to account for this. We're using leap years to try to account for this. Like we can't. To me, it seems like we can't figure it out. We're trying to figure out what the remainder is. How do we divide this so that it ends up in these proportions that we're happy with, and we can't seem to do it.
And I misprinted here. So each side of the pyramid, like the corner to corner, is 365.242 pyramid cubits, sacred Hebrew cubits, which again is historically measured by elbow to fingertips plus a hand. 25.
Which is like what we watch the UFC, and it's like this dude's got a reach that's got 6 extra inches on this guy, but you can,
Virtually identical.
but we can measure from elbow to fingertip.
Well, it's usually of one person, and so you base it on like the king.
They just
or whatever.
pick like, yo, Bob, we're gonna use Bob's arm.
Yeah.
That's the
It'd
standard.
usually be somebody of note. It would be somebody like maybe it was Enoch himself. Who knows? Or Job. I think Job designed the pyramid like through divine inspiration. I'll get into that too.
That's interesting.
It gets wild. Like I'm just laying the groundwork. And so consider one pyramid inch to equal one solar year as we start to go into these measurements. So here's the actual, cross section that
They don't have
everybody
a
has to roll.
kitchen. They don't have a garage. They
kitchen.
don't have a bowling alley.
It wasn't for that, dog.
No rompus room.
No rompus room.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, and you have to go to the laundromat. No built-in laundry.
Oh no.
All right, so Job. Now we're going to get to Job. These are the questions that God asked to Job. You've talked about it a lot. I've heard it. Where you ask about where were you when I laid the earth's foundations?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I've been bringing that up a lot. I'm just too stupid to know where that was from.
Who marked the earth's dimensions? Who stretched a measuring line across the earth? On what were its footings set? Who laid the earth's cornerstone? The reason I asked these is he's asking him. This is what a lot of people look at when they talk about flat earth. This is one of the things. However, the point I think is being made here is that he's speaking to him, putting him in his place.
Yeah.
Because Job, if you read the text, he was the richest man in all of the land. And he had it lists all of his property and such. My theory, and I can't take credit for this, I got it from Ryan Pitterson. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So credit to Ryan Pitterson, that Job may have been the person who was the architect of the Great Pyramid as a servant to God. And I did a little bit of digging. There is a historical character who he was an advisor to the Pharaoh, whose name was Jobab, Jobab. And a lot of people connected him to Job. They say, is this Job? And he's around the time of Abraham. He's right around that time. They don't know exactly when Job took place. They're not even completely sure when it was written. They think it's the oldest book of the Bible, but it's all based on context clues. However, I thought it sounded absurd, but then when I started looking at it, the pharaoh that this Jobab was affiliated with was very unpopular because he would not keep he would not keep the pagan festivals and such, which is the same thing that Job's wife is ridiculing him for, of not doing these things and causing issues. And, all of these bad things are happening to you because you won't do the things that the world.
Oh,
Egypt
so you
wants
can
to do.
you can kind of speculate that he is advising
Yes.
that. Okay, I like that.
And he's also the king of a small area of Mesopotamia that's not far from this area. It's like I said, it's all blind speculation, but there's a lot there to base it on. However, it goes further. What is the way to the abode of light, which is going to become important? Where does darkness reside? Do you know the paths to their dwellings? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Keep that in mind. Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring the constellations in their seasons? Can you lead the bear with its cubs? And do you know the laws of the heavens? There's a lot more questions than that, a lot more. But these are the ones that are relevant to what we're about to look at. So here's that same diagram, but in 2140 BC, this is their astral alignments. The opening of the Great Pyramid aligns with Tubin, which is Alpha Draconis, the dragon star. The upward passage, which at first is very small, you have to crawl on your hands and knees. It's about 3 feet height, would align, if you followed it out, it would align with Columba, which if you look it up, it's called Noah's Dove, which is quite interesting. The air vents on the Queen's Chamber align with Sirius, which they call the Lion's Gate portal. When it was aligned with the Sphinx, they call that the Lion's Gate. And if you look at the shadow or the silhouette of the Sphinx, it is a keyhole, which I've found very interesting. And from above, it's a keyhole. The other vent aligns with a star called Mizar, which is Arabic for meaning linen wrap or wrapped in linen, which I find very interesting.
Wow, that's a prophecy then.
Yes. Well, it keeps going. The King's Chamber air vent aligns with a star called Kokab, which is an interesting star because it's one of the only stars observed, maybe the only star observed, that has, instead of dying, it turned into another type of star. It turned from like a white dwarf into an orange dwarf, which signifies kind of resurrection or evolution or change. But it's a part of Ursa Major, which has a long mythology of meaning resurrection, which is symbolized by the bear in its state of hibernation, right? Like goes to hibernation, goes through the dead of winter, and then awakes reborn, which is a lot like, Christ dying, going to Hades for 3 days and coming back reborn. And the word Kokab, the Hebrew, means he who cometh, which is quite interesting. And on the other side, it points to Orion, which is a lot of times referred to as the coming king, the future king. There's a lot of affiliation or association with resurrection there as well, but the word Orion means heaven's light. And then there are 2 scored lines. When you go in to this yellow circle, that is, there are 2 scored lines that point up to the Pleiades, to specifically the star Alcyone, which is part of the constellation Taurus. Sorry. I didn't dive into all of those meanings, but they all have a very interesting connection to the idea of the Messiah, I would say, and God himself. But it gets a little bit more interesting than that. So we're going to jump in here a little bit. So I don't know why my circle's gone, but right here where this ascending passage starts, if you follow the pyramid to inch, or pyramid one pyramid inch to year um, uh, idea, that would start at 1486 BC. That's where that ascending passage starts on the downward. Now, the idea here is that this is the story of the Bible. This is the story of man. You enter at the time of Adam, and you're on a downward trajectory until 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 well, first of all, there's Abraham, but at that point, at 1486 BC, that is the year that Moses killed the Egyptian and embraced his Hebrew identity.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, and so
was a
the ascent
split.
starts. It's the time of the law. So this upward path is the time of the law.
And that's from the deviation from the downward of
Yes.
entrance and then the upward of ascending passageway. Is there any, do you know if there's any significance to the idea that it continues, there's a split and it keeps going down to the descending passageway?
Yes, it's so this is I have a graphic for it, so we'll get to it.
Okay.
1486.
Oh, there's your circle.
Yep. Coincidentally, this is also the first year, and this is what I was going to tell you guys that I don't think anybody's ever caught because I was looking for 1486. This is the first year that advanced cultures witnessed and first recorded a comet said to appear 8 times the size of the moon in the sky, identified later by Carl Sagan as 12P Pons Brooks. It would also pass the Earth in 1948, 1954, 2016, and 2024, all very significant years for Israel.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yes.
That is fascinating.
That's right. Is 54 the 7-year war, the beginning of that?
54 was
It
there was
passes
a
in
lot of
48.
things. Yeah, it passes in 48.
Wow.
In 54, and here I've got more too. In 54 was when Israel built the Tel Aviv railway station, which was a huge political problem for a lot of people. And it was also the year of something called the Lavon Affair, where 5 Israeli spies were caught and arrested in Egypt for trying to sabotage the Egyptian government. So another connection
interesting.
between
That
Israel
could be
and
any year.
yeah, it could be. This was a big thing. There was and there's plenty of other stuff. There was a lot of like little skirmishes with the Arab Authority in the area at the time. There's a lot going on that year because I was like,
It's wild to
54, that's
say-
not a big year. And I looked and I was like, oh, this was a huge year.
It's wild to say that this comet was 8 times the size of the moon in
the sky,
1486, the way it was perceived. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
Did
and
it, did
interestingly,
it like did it become smaller, or is it like?
well,
is
it's
it
about its proximity.
Right.
Okay. Right,
But also the visual, there's hieroglyphs of it. There's a recording of it in China. And all of the descriptions of it have 10 tails, which I thought was interesting too. Kind of like 10 horns.
tails.
10 tails. Which would signify to me that it's more than one object, that it's the cluster of objects, of 10 objects, which is interesting. But I didn't want to go too far down the comet thing because that's what I texted you about, David. I was like, I'm going to blow your minds because it's crazy. Now there's 2 recorded recent outbursts. So like, energy outbursts from it. And they were June 20th, 2023, which was the event that you would say caused October 7th. And then it also happened on October 6th of that year.
Wait. So was June 20th? Was it like the confirmation of the red heifers?
It was there was something to do with that, but there was also some sort of skirmish between the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and Israel. I don't remember what it was called. It has a name, but it was an operation by Israel that caused something to happen to Hamas, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling into October 7th.
So you're saying that they're still monitoring this object and that occasionally it will release like a burst of energy that's perceivable by radar or whatever technology they're using, and that it just so happens that these events take place at the same time that it is emitting some, perceivable form of energy.
Yeah, like the speculation would be, are they doing it because, or is it happening because of?
Oh
Right.
man, yeah. Are they moved by some sort of cosmic energy that they're unaware of, or
I think they're aware of this stuff because they do a lot of these. They do watch the skies and then they move when they're supposed to.
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I
You
tend
have
to
to have
lean
a
the
lot
other
of
way.
stuff in place
I
though
tend to lean the other way.
to
I think there's something about these energies that,
yeah. Well,
or,
it's
or,
like
or neither. It's just a mark. And it could be complete coincidence. But every date that I looked at, I was like, well, there's something there. There's something happened there.
well, so we're sitting here wondering if there's a correlation, if one affects the other, or is it the chicken or the egg kind of a deal? But it could well be that these things are just predetermined. Like I'm not down with predeterminism in a huge extent, but obviously like there's a plan and in the end God wins and there's a judgment and all these things. So, there's some level of predeterminism. So, do they even have to be aware? It's funny because if you were aware of that, like if you could look up at the same time and see that as soon as you made that move, would you be like, oh, was I supposed to make that move? Like, look at that. There goes the energy burst as soon as I did this thing. But, on the other hand, these cosmic energies, I mean, that's where you get the idea of like lunatics or whatever, like Luna being the base word, Luna meaning moon, the moon or a full moon having this effect on people, making them crazy, which it just does, man. It's like, I can't tell you how often I'll have a weird day or a weird night and I'll go, oh, it's a full moon. That's why.
My kids certainly the same way.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's no way to downplay in my estimation, the effect that these cosmic bodies have on us. And so I kind of agree with Wes. I lean a little bit towards like this idea that we think we're so clever, but it's like we're moved by spirit in one way or another.
Right. And just biblically, it says the heavens and the stars are for seasons and signs. So it's sometimes it's just for reflection and not necessarily something you need to look at and predict. It's just in retrospect, you're like, oh, we're in this season. Yeah. And it's like, you can mark it, like you can mark these things by the procession of the stars in the sky. And
it's like I see this thing happen a lot. Like we've been talking a lot about like this divine feminine concept, and you have Anna Paulina Luna, and she's doing this whole like Book of Enoch thing on Joe Rogan's podcast, which I'm like having a little bit of trouble placing like how I feel about that. But anytime I always talk about the recent Super Bowl that took place in Caesar's Dome. I think that was like New Orleans or something like that, where Donald Trump was the first sitting president at a Super Bowl. And it was filled with like all this kind of divine feminine symbolism. You had like seasons, whatever, Little Seasons. I don't know what her name is. I'm going to stop pretending, but she's a female rapper. And when she appears on stage, she's in like an inverted triangle, which is a symbol for the divine feminine. And then the number 77 is also associated with it. So you see during the commercial, you have a woman doing flag football. She's number 77, and she's just crossing up all these men, breaking ankles, spinning out of tackles or whatever. She's, and then she scores a touchdown in the commercial, and it's like women can do it too. And then there's like all this moon symbolism happening in that commercial too. And then last night, me and my wife watched The Ballerina, which is
How was it?
It's not John. The saving grace is that John Wick is in it, so that's cool. I'm
in.
It's like it's okay, man. It's just like a John Wick film is constant whooping, and I'd just rather see John Wick do it. That's all. I don't want to watch literally a girl that's a ballerina. She's like 90 pounds. Do all this, but
You're a misogynist.
I'm a masseuse, and so right at the beginning of that film, though, there's like this big mural on the wall with the moon in all of its sequences, and it's like they're always doing this, the divine feminine, like female power and the moon. So these symbols have their things or these cosmic bodies have their things that they historically, symbolically rule over. And I used to go, well, that's dumb, and now I go, probably not so dumb. It's just that it's become. You know what I mean? Like it's cringy when people are talking about astrology, and then but there's 100% something to it. You wouldn't have that last as long as it has as a school of thought if there was nothing to it. And then we poo-poo that, and then when there's a full moon, we go, people are acting wonky, it's a full moon, but we don't see the correlation there.
No, I agree. And it's very strange. Like even the whole Mercury in retrograde thing, like I laughed at that my whole life. And then as I became an adult, I was like, this weirdly seems legitimate.
It is, man.
What happened to us? But when we were at the Primary Waters place.
Oh yeah, Matthew Lane was like, I'm gonna butcher it, but let's say he was just like, hey, Mercury is in retrograde. Okay, that's hilarious because the federal agent said it at the exact moment that I said it. We literally have a federal agent. That was bizarre. Shout out federal agent, I guess. Anyway, so let's say he says that. He goes, Mercury is in retrograde. Your equipment is going to fail today.
But don't worry about it. Yeah.
Keep a cool head and keep persisting and it'll work out. And yeah, we got there and like their generator or their pump for their well broke down. And then
it's the generator they've been using for 10 years.
It
broke, so they bought a new one, and the new one didn't work. Brand new.
And then it turned out to be like a common issue with this brand, so they had to bring it back and get a new one. And then eventually everything worked, and it was this big moment. But it was like, that was weird.
Yeah, you're like, what the?
Because he said that, and I said,
it's like you're Matthew Lane, and then that exactly happened. So I'm like,
that's weird. All right.
The last thing I can say about that is there was a day last October and my coworker said Mercury's in retrograde, and I was like, I don't really put any stock in that.
Tim's gonna fire us all, huh? He's gonna fire all of us.
I got fired that night. Yeah, I got fired that night.
It's weird, man.
It must have shrunk his beanie. You know, it affects the waters, the sweat in his beanie,
it's the swelling. But there is something like I try not to get moved by it. And I don't know if that's the right thing or not. Like if these cosmic bodies do push us in one way or another, are we supposed to go with that ebb and flow? Or do you go, oh, that thing is happening and it makes tempers high. I should chill out instead of giving into it. Because I feel like that's what you should do.
Do you know Doug Van Dorn?
I'm not familiar with him now.
He's really cool dude. He's been on Blurry Creatures and Tony Merkel. He's a pastor and a researcher. And he did an episode, I think it was Blurry Creatures, where he was talking about, Mercury in retrograde and then also just horoscopes and zodiac. And he was like, all of this is 100% legitimate. He was like, but it's a distortion of the Hebrew Mazzaroth. He was like, and what Christ's death did was it liberated mankind from what he calls the system of Saturn. He says this perversion of the Hebrew Mazzaroth, which is supposed to be signs and signals in the sky, it does have effect and governance, not governance, but influence over things about you. Just like I think that there is something to the idea of, and this is I'm going to put it out there. This is my biggest argument against the little season. Is that we are in the right time period for the precession of the stars. So when Christ was like, do you know when the age of Pisces started? It started on 1 AD. That's when the age of Pisces started. The age of the church, the age of Christ, the age of the Messiah. We are barreling straight towards the age of Aquarius. And if you follow these timelines, if you follow these ages, humanity's like consciousness evolves. It changes. And I think we're getting ready to, like, I think that's why, because the end of the pure age of Pisces was December 21st, 2012. And somewhere between 2030 and 2070 is when we'll exit Pisces and be fully in Aquarius. And there's something about, if you look at 2012, that is kind of like the line of demarcation to where when everything started getting really bad, like, and I don't mean bad, like, oh, society's going off a cliff. Like, I guess that's true too. But go back to 2011. We weren't talking about every movie sucks, every book sucks, every album sucks. It's all like tripe. And I don't think anything's changed, because if you go back and look, it's not that much different. I think we're changing and expecting something more. Like, we don't listen to, like the 90s, the 80s was very materialistic, and we're slowly becoming like, look at Gen Z. They're like not materialistic. Millennials, not materialistic. I mean, they are to an extent, but they're much more about experience. They're much more about like vibe, right? They're a lot more insightful than I think Gen X and like baby boomers were. That it was all about like, hey, what's in your wallet? Keep up with the Joneses. Everything's cool. Yeah. My job is cool. Now we're like, I want a job that gives me meaning. And I'm not saying there was nobody like that, but the general trend, like the average person or the below average person, is elevating like consciously. And I think that there is something to that. Now, not in the sense of like, should we be trying to ascend in a new age sense? No, the only real ascension is through Jesus Christ. But there is something to the idea when we talk about these ages and the what impact they have on people. You can measure it. You can measure it, like why certain time periods just make a leap. And you could say fallen angel technology or influence or whatever, but there is something, some people say the stone ape theory, that's how humanity started, but there's a consciousness change or an unlocking. We're getting closer to something, and we all feel like we're barreling towards something. Like I hear normies say that all the time. Like it just feels like we're at the end of something. It's like we're at the end of the age of Pisces. I don't know what it actually means physically, or how it works on a physical level or a consciousness level, but I can see it. I can identify that, yeah, something's different. We didn't feel that way in 2005. I didn't feel that way in 2010. 2010, I was like, can't wait until 10 years from now. And now I'm like, 10 years from now is probably going to be really weird, really awful. It feels like there's something that like, there is some sort of like shoe that's going to drop. I don't know what the shoe is, but I know it's coming. And
that's interesting because
it's ironic.
I was just going to say, you have the Mayan calendar. Somebody brought it up in the chat, and that was, supposed to end at December 21st, 2012. And
kind of did.
I think we all attached a bunch of like doom and gloom to it that wasn't insinuated by this gigantic stone calendar. Shout out Meat Cavern. Because this was literally about timekeeping. It didn't have anything on it about like, and everything is going to die.
It was about the end of that age.
It was about the end of the age, right?
Yeah.
And we had that film with the, I forgot what his name was, but it was 2012. What's the guy's name? He drove John Cusack drove a limousine through the end of the world, and it was called like 2012, the end of the world. But I agree with what you're saying, especially on the front where it was like looking for meaning, and I became hyper aware that I didn't want to work a job that I was going to lift my head up one day and wonder where 20 years had gone. And it was like really scary to me. I became very receptive to that like kind of trope of the old person who gets to the end of the line and goes, I never did the things that I wanted to do because I was too afraid. And so that was like my major driving force for a long time. And I think what happened was after the vid popped off, and everybody was sent home for a time, you noticed that there was a drastic decline in people returning to work. And a lot of it was people realizing, like, once I got a break from the system, I didn't want to be a part of that again. I didn't want to go back to my cubicle and work a 9-to-5 with people who my management team tells me are like a second family. You know what I mean? Like, nobody actually wanted that. There's no amount of pizza parties that they can give you where it softens the blow when your manager starts talking to you crazy. So it's like, I think I believe that a lot of people all of a sudden switch their modes, what they wanted out of life. And then once we were able to detach for a minute, it was real hard to get people to go back.
I think of a really funny, I say it as a joke, but I mean it. Pro wrestling. Professional wrestling, WWE specifically, when kayfabe dies in a way, or when they have to they had to regroup in a big way right around 2012. Like you had the Attitude Era, then you had Ruthless Aggression Era, and then 2012 it like really slows down. It's crazy. I think you get into like Roman Reigns territory, but it's a generational skip, and it's also people aren't believing this anymore. Like they're not looking at it and going like, yeah, Kane, Undertaker, or even like, Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik, like where you can kind of put these things up. now they have seamlessly transitioned into like this online Twitter terror. They're forming in a new era, and I pay attention to it not because I'm a fan of it, because I think the way that they move is the way that culture will move, or it's like a good indicator of what society will accept. And we're coming to this crazy thought, but I think we're coming to a weird culmination of it with that Raja Jackson thing. I know.
Oh,
you guys saw
Rampage Jackson's kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that yesterday? So it's like it's a.
What do you
weird-
think? Kayfabe or is it? Or
No,
is it
no. I
real?
mean, listen, the guy lost his mind, but the fact is that like wrestling is crossing this weird line of social media to now into like really raw behavioral. Like I mean, like this is like almost a race war happening. And wrestling is kayfabing its way into it. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if I like it.
I stopped watching. You know who made me stop? This is a little aside. You know who made me stop watching? The Hurricane. Do you remember a guy named the Hurricane?
it's Hurricane coming through.
Nope. As soon as I saw that guy, I never watched again. And that was a long time ago. I said, absolutely not watching that. And then I was done. And I haven't looked back since, except for to watch Rampage Jackson's son nearly kill a man for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's what's changed is our inability to accept what is obviously bullshit.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's the inability to accept nonsense. So wrestling is they are reacting and they are moving with the times, and they're using Twitter in a pretty genius way. I think that this crossed the line.
Probably. Well,
But,
I mean, I don't know if this wasn't real. A lot of people say it was kayfabe, and they're like, look, you
No,
can
no,
tell.
he
I'm
almost
like,
killed this guy.
I can see the way this guy's head is bouncing off the fist and off the mat.
Here's the thing, though. It's produced in a way where it's live streamed, so it was supposed to be kayfabe. The same way this other guy, Karrion Kross, goes in WrestleMania and he does like a complete insider promo against the WWE and breaks the third wall, and it's like a whole thing. And I'm like, oh, that's where we're at with wrestling now. We're tearing down the third wall. Everybody is privy to the backstage, and that is now part of the show, the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Everything is part of. You know what, guys?
One of these walls
you know
is coming
what?
down.
Yeah, so break the wall down. Anyway, it's just like now the backstage of it, the part of the business, the inside, the extracurricular stuff. Like they're in the car and they're like beating each other. They're doing podcasts. This is what the audience is now watching, and what is the show. You understand? That's the show, the reality. This is where we are now, where reality is the show. And I'm like, wrestling is really fascinating because it's moving. This is what politics is at the highest level.
Highest levels, it's theater.
We're seeing this like, and it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about it that way.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You just can see the walls of things breaking down, whether it's the financial system, like we're constantly, barreling towards financial collapse and just propping it up. I've thought about since around 2010, 12 about how like ineffectual advertising is now. Like,
oh my God.
You just don't look at it. You just don't like it. You have to evolve it, right? It has to be something else. Like what doesn't work anymore.
When I was on a cruise recently, my son and I are watching Naked and Afraid, and it's like on cable television I don't know if you're getting cable on a cruise. Whatever the hell you're getting is not what we're watching at home. And every commercial break, which there's so many of them, is it's happy people skipping through a field. Do you have like eczema or psoriasis? And it's like, do you want to be free of your eczema and psoriasis? Try, whatever the hell this medication's name is. And then it's like the old Dave Chappelle bit where they go through the list of side effects, and it's like may include, seizures, strokes, blindness, depression, suicidal thoughts. And even my son, which is actually kind of remarkable because I don't remember picking up on this when I was his age. He's like, why do they look so happy when the list of like things is
This guy
so
has anal fissures, right?
anal fissures. He's getting bifidas, so many bifidas, and it's like, and he's like, doesn't that seem funny to you? And I'm like, yeah, it's actually hilarious. But I don't know who there is I don't want to get down too much on the boomers, but it's like it's working on them. And then after them, that model is dead, dude. It is dead. And I don't know where the hell it goes after that. I don't know what advertising looks like because they try to do like just silly goose advertising for millennials, but like our taste is changing so rapidly. Remember, like Skittles used to do like puppy monkey baby, and it's just like a puppy monkey baby mashup, and you're like, that doesn't make me want Skittles. But at least I remember the commercial. Puppy Monkey Baby's kind of nightmarish, funny creature. But now, like, we've moved on from that. Like, I don't even want that kind of chaotic humor anymore. Now you got to give me race war stuff. Now you got to go, you know, Sydney Sweeney's jeans are great, or this Dunkin' Donuts white dude is crushing, his jeans are great. You know what I mean? Like, it's you got to give me something really like super intense for me to give a shit anymore.
I have to mention this. I don't know if you saw it, but I was like, okay, that's good. Was a Cass Brew coffee, like Tim's coffee company. Ian has great.
Oh yeah, that was good. I
was like, well done, guys. Well done.
But you know what it is? You have to like, even for that, like it works perfectly for his fan base because you have to know Ian. Yeah. Like if you know Ian, then you're like, this is amazing. You know what I mean?
It works good for Tim's fan base because it is like an ad now it's a joke that has been done a bunch. So I'm like, oh, it's a perfect boomer joke. It's funny.
But it's Ian, which makes it Ian. Like, then it's like extra. It's got a layer of funny.
He should have showed feet in the ad.
Just should have shown feet in the ad.
My only problem with the ad.
I thought he did.
No, they
need more feet.
They cut him off. It must have cost extra for feet.
Hey, honestly, yeah. I mean, if he's smart, he's charging a lot.
Dude never wears shoes.
I edited it. I saw feet.
He never wears shoes or socks. Ever.
Respect.
I'm gonna jump a little forward in this.
Oh yeah, please. Sorry. That's right. You have a presentation. We've been talking about Ian's feet.
Yeah. Well, that's the next slide, actually. So this is a zoom in of this area right here. So where the ascending passage meets the Grand Gallery and the Queen's Chamber passage. It's a little blurry. I couldn't find a really high resolution photo. But if you continue to follow the 1 pyramid inches a year, where the ascending passage meets the Queen's Chamber passage would be 30 AD, which is interesting. And then if you follow it into the Queen's Chamber passage, there's a drop down. And if you follow that laterally back, it would be about 4 BC, which is also interesting, which is the corrected year for the birth of Jesus, given when the decree to execute the firstborn sons of the Hebrews to get rid of him by Herod was actually happened. So we have to put the idea that Jesus was born around that time. And then the center point would be 70 AD, which is the final rejection of Christ by the Jews and the destruction of the temple. And then you jump up to the top of the passage, be 96 AD, which is the presumed year of the finishing of the writing of Revelation, which is very interesting. Now I've heard I'm going to go back, other interpretations of what this Queen's Chamber is, because, and I'll get into it in a second. Actually, I'm just going to jump to it. Well, one side note, the angle of the ascending passage is 26 degrees, 18 minutes, 9.6 seconds, which if you convert that to just degrees is 26.302666 degrees. Interesting. But if you put that on the equator, raise it counterclockwise, it's a straight line from the Great Pyramid to this dot right here, which is Bethlehem.
Huh.
Just an interesting little tidbit. All right. So here's the names in the Egyptian Book of the Dead of the passages. So the Descent, the Chamber of Ordeal, which I think is funny, the Well of Life, the Hall of Truth and Darkness, the Path of the Coming Forth of the Regenerated Soul, and the Chamber of Rebirth and Regeneration. Now there's the, I'm going to jump forward to the Christian version.
Oh, that is fascinating.
So earthly, they call this the Messianic Age and the resurrection. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a holding spot for Israel. So it's where they rejected him, but they're sitting in the Queen's Chamber, just like the church, like the bride of Christ. And they're sitting there until the heavenly resurrection or the return. But on the broad scale, very interesting. The door being Adam's sin, downward trajectory for man. You have the flood, all of that, it's just down, down, down. Man's sole focus is sin continually. And then the law, or when I would say when Moses flees to Midian and changes his mind and follows God.
Can you go to the previous slide?
Yes.
Yeah, because it was named like the Hall of Truth in Darkness is
Yes.
kind of right on the money, and then of course the Hall of Truth in Light is a banger.
Yes. And the argument I would make is that wherever the information came for the Book of the Dead is the pre-Egyptian civilization that were aware of who the Most High God was. Like they got it. They had some information, whether it was Watchers or something, communicating, because we talk a lot about when the Watchers sinned, but nobody ever really talks about what they did before that. What were they teaching?
Yeah, we never talk about when the Watchers were crushing.
Yeah, exactly. And why wouldn't they be teaching this? Why wouldn't they be telling stories of like who the Most High is? That's literally what they're here to do, is to keep people on the straight and narrow. But
Secret Places of a Hidden God is also very,
yes,
that's very interesting as well.
Yes, it is. I'm going to jump forward again. But I don't know if I've got, okay. Yeah, that's my last slide. So once you get past the, right, I keep touching my screen, like you can see it, this spot right here.
What is that downward jagged path called? It was right beneath the ransom sacrifice that meets the ransom sacrifice to the reign of death. I can't see it because the camera's in the way. It's something with an R.
Ransom.
Oh, it's called ransom. Okay.
Yes. And the interpretation of that is, there's two interpretations. I choose the latter, but the first is that even if you surpass the law and you don't, get right with God, and you continue down the broad path of destruction, even until the very end, you can get right with God and ascend up to the start of your walk. However, I look at it as, since this is the death and resurrection spot, before he was resurrected, he carved the path.
That's where he went.
Yes, he carved the path down there, conquered death, and then came back up it to do that. So I guess you could put those together, as that because he did that, now you can go up it. He opened that pathway by his death, so you can rise.
Honestly, dude, this is really resonating, and I gotta say, and at the top of this, Wes, you talked about how there are no satanic symbols or anything like that, and that these are just symbols that are highly meaningful but co-opted and inverted, and maybe none greater than the pyramid. You know what I mean? The pyramid and the all-seeing eye has become the symbol of if the bad guy was a supervillain, this would be on his chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his calling card, right? And and there's a lot more math I'm not going to go into when you get up to the top of the Gospel Age and the consecrated walk, which a lot of people call this little room right here the Hall of Enoch, because if you make a circle that meets all four walls, like touches the center of all four walls, that circumference would be 365,242 pyramid inches. But as you can see, you can't see it. I wonder if you could see it on the other one. Yes, you can. There's a stone right here, this little red stone. That's the one that has the boss on it, the half semicircle.
Oh, yeah, I see it, yeah.
And it is suspended somehow. Like, they don't know how it's staying suspended. It's just suspended.
But it's affixed to the wall, you mean?
Yes, but they physically, they're like, this is very strange. It's built into the wall, but it's just kind of hanging there. But the idea of it, to be looking at it from a Christian point of view, is so to get under it, you have to bow. And then there's three other rose granite stones.
Yeah, I see those.
And they're raised. And so you can walk in, but then you have to bow one more time and go under these two stones here and enter the king's chamber. The king's chamber is an empty tomb that is made of 5x5 rose granite stones, which back to the 5 and God's breath. But inside there's an empty sarcophagus that is the exact dimensions to hold the Ark of the Covenant.
Whoa.
Is the speculation here strictly symbolic, or is there any idea that it was ever kept there?
I believe it's strictly symbolic to say that to align the throne of God and
The
the
Holy
empty
of
tomb.
Holies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And so
It's a good question. Who measured all this?
yeah, shout out Z-Man asking the important questions.
There were a lot of different measurers, and they measure different ways. So I can't remember the name of the guy, something Davidson, who came up with the pyramid inch and how he found that, and the pyramid cubit, which he based on the Hebrew royal cubit or sacred cubit. But yeah, the tome that's on this is huge. I haven't been able to find a copy, but if I can find a copy, I want one. But it's going to be written so weird, like all the S's are going to be F's and stuff, and that drives me crazy. But
man, you gotta imagine, because I'm sure it wasn't Christian archaeologists who were able to kind of do the excavation here and start to do the measurements and discover these or rediscover these chambers. And when they got to what is it conventionally called? That big chamber in the center, the red one that we're looking at,
King's Chamber.
the King's Chamber.
Yep.
They would have had to have been mighty disappointed. I mean, obviously, to us, just describing this here and all these measurements and how they're significant, it seems incredible. But if you are sleuthing through this gigantic pyramid trying to find these chambers, and you get there and it's an empty 5x5 room with an empty kind of chamber or box in the center of the room, that probably pissed a lot of people off for a long time.
Yeah. And there's just it's one of those things where like two of these would have been compelling, but it just keeps going and it just keeps going. And like I said, I'm not even scratching the surface of like the information that's out there. There's a whole lot more. There's a whole lot more of like the math and what it points to astrally and what it points to scripturally that I was like, I just don't have time for this. I think these things are enough, but like you just kind of have to lay the groundwork with the Cubit and all of that to understand, like, what does this 30 mean? What does this 70 mean? Where are you getting that? And at the end of the day, like, this isn't anything other than just like something to me that you look at and measure up to scripture to say like, okay, there is some sort of like, there's something going on here. There's something to this. And just like, cause I'm of the mind that like, you won't understand the Bible until you understand the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, you won't understand it as truth. Like, how many people have you talked to in your life that they've said, yeah, I've read it, but it's just another text. And it's to describe the truth in it, you have to kind of get weird. You kind of have to go larger. And this is one of those things where it's like, oh, like, this can't be explained normally. Like, if this all pans out, how does anybody come up with a like a normal explanation for them being aligned in such a way? And the one that really got me was when it was like, oh, the constellations that it aligns with in 2140 BC happen to be the exact constellations mentioned in the book of Job. Like, it just happens to be those ones. Why didn't he point it at Medusa? Why didn't he point it at Cancer? Why didn't he mention those? Like, why? What's the point? And it opens a much larger box. And I think opening that larger box is necessary, like, not necessary, but it's helpful to a lot of people who are trying to figure out, is this the true one? Is this truth?
It's interesting because in the same way that many people, myself included, will associate kind of subconsciously the idea of the pyramid and the all-seeing eye with like that of the enemy, right? It's the same way that I have come to almost just dismiss Egypt as this Babylon-esque place where all of these, and I'm sure there was a time where all these horrifying things were going on, and they're worshiping these lowercase g gods, these fallen, these chimeric creatures exist. There's Nephilim everywhere, and then of course, you know, the book of Exodus and the Pharaoh, and but then the idea that wasn't the original purpose for what's still it's you know, how many wonders of the world are there? 8. And this is like one of the biggest mysteries to us still.
Well, this is the last one standing.
The last one standing. That's interesting. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere for
Right.
a long time. But we
Right, and
speculate
Jeremiah
wildly.
points that out. And Jeremiah points out that this is going to be the one that's standing in the day, and this is going to be the one people look at in the day. And when it's talking about in the day, it's talking about what I perceive to be now, which is the end, the day of the Lord. Like it will be the thing that people are going to go to. And that's kind of what it's, I think it's two at once when it says they're going to like shout to the Lord because of their oppressors hoping for a savior. I think that means Christ at the time and the second coming, that the same thing is going to be happening.
Is this what they're talking about when they say flee to the mountains? Like,
So,
I don't know, maybe.
it's kind of a mountain. Well,
it is a mountain.
you know, so conventional archaeology says that these were built by slaves, which if you're taking a Christian POV, then it's like, were these really built by slaves? That seems like
talented
it wouldn't
slaves.
be yeah. And then of course, given the architecture of it all, you go, I don't know if this is slaves, and all the measurements that you laid out here today. But then there is the other school of thought from conspiracy theorists and ancient astronaut theorists, where it's like this was done with special technology, or maybe this was a bit more nefarious, and this was done by like Nephilim giants that were lugging these stones into place. Where I'd still have to be like, just because they were Nephilim giants, does that mean that they had the ability to, like, you know, put some of these in place to the degree that you couldn't slide a sheet of paper in between them and the measurements are all, you know, because you get a mixed kind of bag when it comes to the Nephilim. It's like some of them seem to be bumbling morons, but were just like physically gifted. And so were terrifying but didn't have any, what would you call it? Long time preference. They were eating people. They were killing each other. They were warring. It didn't seem like intelligence was high on the ranking when it came to Nephilim. So you still don't answer that question as to. So
well, some. I mean,
of them, right.
Yeah, they had like obviously advanced technology from their parents and kingdom. So I'd assume that there was like a hierarchy of.
Sure. Yeah. But it does make you wonder, like, if this was what I'm getting at is if this was originally a monument to God the Father, then it begins, it puts the speculation of how they came to be in a different lens. You know, was it as, because I always look at it as like, must have been gruesome, whether it was slaves or if it was cannibalistic giants or if it was technology where slaves involved because they're cracking whips and shooting, you know, laser, you know what I mean? Like, it's like everything is kind of, I think I make that mistake too much, is I tend to look at antiquity too much through the lens of diabolical creatures, when surely that was an element. But like, I got to admit, never stopped to think that that wasn't the original purpose of them. Even the idea that they were some sort of great energy harnessing technologies. The pyramids, they're on ley lines. They're pointed at this, you know, star system, Orion's belt. They're meant to act as some sort of an antenna for energy, and you know. It's like I always just kind of added this, like, and it was dark, right, dog? Like there was like this was not a good thing. Like, I don't know, maybe that's not the case, and I never really stopped to think about that. It's very interesting.
My two closing thoughts on this are the design itself too, the pyramid. The one thing I didn't talk about was the capstone, because there never was one. It was the stone that the builders rejected, which is Jesus Christ. The golden capstone. And the way I look at the design of it is every single stone in it that you can see on the outside and around is a representation, and this is my interpretation, is a representation of mankind. And think of every step up as being closer to Christ. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 12 stones at the top.
Oh, like right beneath what would have been the capstone?
Yes. And the only way to him is through Christ. So it's all leading up. And then I hate to contradict Trey, but this is what I think he's describing for the New Jerusalem. It's not going to be a cube. It's going to be a pyramid that lands on the earth. And I think that's going to deceive a lot of people.
That's fascinating.
Because the cube would have 4 cornerstones, not one master cornerstone, chief cornerstone.
That's true.
How would you? Yeah, I mean, how would you perceive it anyway if you're seeing it from below?
Well,
A
that would
square.
Yeah, a
But-
square.
That's true. Yeah. It makes me think of in Moscow. I think this is one of the most like significant UFO sightings that was never really dismissed. And I saw a bunch of different angles, a bunch of different POVs. This probably was around like 2012, maybe 2011. And there were just these fully three-dimensional pyramids hovering in the sky with their tips pointed downward at an angle on the planet. And I'm seeing them from people like you look at it and you go, this thing looks like a pyramid from Egypt, not just in the sense that it's a pyramid, but in the scale, the sheer size of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching those videos when I was younger and being like, dude, this can't be real, but it looks really good. And I was looking at them recently and it's like, yeah, there was never any explanation for it. Nobody was ever able to debunk it. The amount of sightings, different people unrelated to one another, capturing it on video, reporting it. You know, it wasn't just Moscow either. It was a couple other places. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that that's related in any way, but I just think when you see the same way when Trey sees a giant cube, you know, in the woods and you begin to speculate the significance of the cube itself. I think if you see a giant pyramid in the sky, you can start to speculate as to the significance of a pyramid and how it might relate to Egypt and things of that nature. So, but that's an interesting thought.
That's the danger. I think that's the danger is that it's going to be really easy to convince people that the giant pyramid coming out of the sky is the aliens who built the pyramid are coming back to destroy us.
That's true. That's true.
The years of manipulation are in play. Here's a crazy thought. G.P. Jonathan says, maybe the fallen or the Nephilim were slaves to the righteous. I mean, I don't know.
For a
we
time,
know,
they would have been like not slaves, but they were his creation, not the Nephilim, but the fallen were before they fell. They were his creation, so they did his bidding, right? That's the same way that he said before the Watchers fell, they would have been doing the work of keeping people on track and in
well, we
alignment.
also know. I mean, there's a Kabbalistic story of Solomon controlling these demons, which would be Nephilim, with sigils, some sort of sigil magic. So it's like, well, what's the difference here? They were his slaves. Were they,
I don't know.
incorporeal
If Enoch
entities?
was part of the building, which I don't know that he was, or if it was just why it's in reference to him. And then,
Yeah.
but he was, chums with them. So
Yeah.
there's something to that. And I mean, that's what Eric von Daniken says too. He thinks Enoch was friends with extraterrestrials who built the pyramids. And it's like, I mean, they literally are extraterrestrials. I don't think that they're the conventional understanding of aliens, but they're not from Earth. They're from somewhere else.
Yeah, I just get mad at Eric von Daniken because he's
Great
taking
hair.
like this. No, not that's the other guy. I forget what his name is. His name is
Zachariah Sitchin?
Giovanni or something. The guy that's like aliens. That guy.
Yeah.
But this guy Eric von Daniken, he's kind of like an older dude that appears on. I mean, like an old man that appears on Ancient Aliens, and he wrote a book called Enoch and the Return of the Gods, which I read only some of, and I kind of put it down because it was like I don't disagree with a lot of his takes. He's looking at certain things through like a technological lens, which obviously we do here, but it's like to continually kind of hit the aliens drum is to miss the point about their nature.
Yep.
And that's what their nature is, that they were created by God the Father, the same God the Father that Jesus Christ is referencing. And to call them anything else is like there's too much baggage attached to alien. You're muddying the waters. We got the nature of them down pretty well here. And so but other than that, the way he describes things in Return of the Gods it's fascinating, and I don't dismiss a lot of it. It's just like
Chariot of the Gods.
well, there's Chariot of the Gods, and there's also the Book of Enoch, Return of the Gods. It's basically his, what would you call it, commentary on the Book of Enoch.
Oh, he did it too. Did he know that Alberino already did that?
No. He Von Daniken did it first. And so hats off to him.
Well, he'll be hearing from our lawyers.
That's right. I would love to talk to Von Daniken because he doesn't seem like he's totally stuck on this aliens thing. I just don't know why. I think we would almost be better if we threw it out. If we just threw out the idea of aliens and the idea of space travel and like that. We would be better off if we took what we know and we saw how it applied to all the pre-existing mythos that already exists. Which, like, each time there's a new mythology, whether it's Greek or Sumerian or this or that, it does a fine job of muddying the waters.
Yeah.
But then here in modern era, we have to create our own mythos and then try to look at it through that lens. And it's like, well, all we're doing is once again adding another layer to muddying the waters. And it's just a little bit frustrating because unlike theirs, that comes from like a lot of firsthand experience, which ours does too. Ours also comes from a lot of sci-fi. And it's like, that is not helping, I don't know if early man was as fixated on works of fiction as we are. We're doing a lot of works of fiction and entertainment, and that does a lot of maybe they were, but who knows? Anyway,
they weren't calling them.
I don't know if they were, because they had weird stuff going on all around.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know if they had to. Like, I know that a lot of our works of fiction are inspired by firsthand experience, but then they're sensationalized for Hollywood. But it's just like, man, the layers of mud are too much here. Like I said, you already have to parse through what was Greek mythology and Sumerian mythology and what did the Vedics have going on, and then how does this all apply to Christianity? Christianity being like the main one that tells you the nature of these things, but all of them have a little bit of something to add to the conversation. And then we're like, Star Wars. And I'm like, man,
So close.
we already have a lot going on here. Could we not do all of that? And then we have, ancient aliens, which is, it's just not helping. I don't know.
Yeah, and then it gets even weirder where it's like, oh, by the way, Thor, super cool, chill babe.
Based.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Thor
super
is
cool guy, and it's
based.
like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's it too, right? Because then we go like, yeah, we'll take Hercules, we'll take Thor, we'll take all these guys, we'll put them in Marvel, Spider-Man, and it's like, what, man? You ever see that thing where it's like, did you know that Batman he existed in Sumer?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think that's real.
Well, the
don't think
mask
it's real?
is not real. The mask is not real.
The mask that you see that's associated with like ancient Sumer, right?
Yeah, that's not real.
Yeah, but people are going around like, well, Batman was because
I
his
did see
cowl.
that. I told
Yeah,
people
that-
that.
The cowl,
I
that
spread
was
that
like
information.
a Batman promo thing. Like somebody built it or sculpted it to compare to that, but it's not actually from that time. Now the story is real, but that cowl is not real. Where it's like it looks exactly like Ben Affleck's Batman. It's like it's because it was.
But it's just frustrating. It's just all of it's frustrating. Like we've passed all of the mythos through a goofy filter and then made it commercialized, and then we made Disney World, and it's just like, man, we are not helping ourselves understand this at all. At all. I think if we would have just taken modern day phenomenon and testimony and all those different things that are still happening, because we still live in biblical times, and we ran them through the filters of the ancients, we probably would have been better off. But now we're listen, we got to bring it in for a landing, Wes. This was fascinating. I've never heard of this before, and I think that ancient Egypt and especially the pyramids, they need a deeper scrutinization. Maybe they're not as nefarious as I've become comfortable with.
Well, I would say the
believing.
dynastic Egyptians are. So there's a lot of
that's
pyramids in Egypt, and this is the only one that doesn't have hieroglyphs or any pagan symbolism in it whatsoever. It has no hieroglyphs, in fact.
Damn, that's even cooler.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yep.
Huh,
No
no
hieroglyphs.
hieroglyphs and no pagan symbolism.
There's graffiti and the only place there's graffiti is in the pit, the chamber of the ordeal.
What an ordeal.
Yeah. Which I'd find it all fascinating. Like I've been geeking out on this all weekend. I was like, this is crazy.
Very cool, man. I'm glad because you brought me a couple of different topics, and I said I want you to talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's always what's going to be the best conversation anyway, is what you find the most interesting.
Yeah, next time you come on, I know you've done it on the confessionals, but I do want to talk about your personal stories. I heard them, it was a long time ago. I think you were on with Cashman. Long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, the treasure episode.
I barely remember it. Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to recap that. Maybe
That'd be
we
cool.
could draw a little bit more out. I don't know.
Yeah, and when you get the chance, send out my Pokemon cards.
We'll do. Yeah, I will do.
Please.
His legs are shaking right now.
Whatever
can
you
see
got,
it.
dude. I really need that Doug Trio. Really need that B drill. Really need that Clefairy. Listen, Wes, I really want to thank you for your time, brother. Really fascinating stuff. Before we go, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the X account on the bottom of the screen, and that's pretty much it.
What a humble man. What a humble man. Guys, go follow him on Twitter too. Don't say anything, off-putting or insulting or racially motivated, any of those things. Say nice things. Tell him how
Racially
because
motivated.
you know how these people are. All right, they're terrible people. We've collected terrible people because we're terrible people.
That's true.
It's true. Tell him how cool his ideas are, because this was a banger, man. I guess that's it. Is that all we?
That's it, guys. Wes, thank you. And guys, until next time, don't forget to obey, submit, and comply.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see. You can't. Because they'll laugh in the face of